All right, guys, so we have a bit of a different video for you today. I got my good friend Keso. If you don't know who he has been one of the best players in NHL for like way too long, like a decade. But he's also one of the most intelligent when it comes to numbers and improving the game. So I brought him along. He did a ton of work, and I think that he's come up with something that might actually fix progression and gameplay balance in Hockey Ultimate Team, something that's obviously been a giant issue, specifically this year, and when you include the GWC as kind of like the end game, we definitely had a bigger focus on it this year because everyone got to 99, progression got way out of hand, and it really messed with the gameplay because the game didn't feel like what it was at the beginning of the year, so we're going to get to that. So Keso, my man, thank you for doing this with me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I'm excited to share some things we found. You know that?
Absolutely, man. And he has a ton of data. You guys are going to be pretty stunned at this. So we are going to talk specifically about the state of progression in Hockey Ultimate Team. We are going to talk about some proposed fixes in terms of height, weight, balance, all that kind of stuff, and potentially a cap on attributes for live series cards. So we're talking like informs and base cards and whatnot. Obviously, we can't get into sets because those would have to be mingled in throughout. So what we're going to talk about is how you fix progression with base cards, team of the week, and prime times throughout the year, and then obviously with that model you can then base the set releases as they go because you kind of have an area of what the cards at their peak would be during that time frame as you release them. So let's get into all of that right now. I'm gonna hide my screen 1 second here, and I want you to walk me through this screen. All right?
Yeah. So first off, I want to give a shout out to the NHL Hut Builder guy, NHLHutBuilder.com. He provided me this data back in like early April. I hadn't had a chance to go look at it until like this past weekend. So it's a great site. I'm sure a lot of people that watch this channel use it, but shout out to him. I forget his name now, so that's unfortunate timing. But so first off, one of the constant complaints about Hut is that usually around like the holiday, November, December, Hut gets a little bit stale. Every single year I play it, I find like, oh, I'm bored. You know, every player plays the same. Every team is generally made up of the same players, and the game just, I mean, maybe I sound old by saying it moves too quick, but I think too many players in the game have 99 speed a few months in.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to look at sort of like, even though we know this, just a proof or exactly when it happens.
Okay.
So what I have here is the speed ratings by the set that they're released in. So, and I'm pretty sure it's in order. Nicholas from the Hut Dev team confirmed that it was in order. And we're looking here. We have like the classic set that was released first.
Yep.
So looking
one, yep.
at this, so looking at this, and I have two screens here, or two, I guess, graphs showing. Below is the amount of cards released by the set, and then above is like just the average speed rating. So looking at classic, early on in the game, average speed of around 90, which I think is fair. That's in what, like September it came out?
Yeah, 2 weeks in.
And then, 2 weeks in, right? So that's like, 90 speed. That's fair. That's whatever. And then one thing I think this highlights is the next set, which was the leader set, where if people remember, every single card had one attribute that they were 99 in. And I thought this was the most well-designed set of the year, because it was a little different than things they had done in the past. And certain cards retained value a little longer than they usually would have. So, for example, there was a Pietrangelo card that had 99 speed that was released here. I think that might have been the first 99 speed card in the game, or one of the first few.
Yep.
So even though he wasn't great in a lot of stats, he was still a 2 to 250,000 coin card for, like a month or two, I think.
And he wasn't even a master set guy.
He wasn't even a master set. He was what, like an 88 or 90 overall.
Yeah, I believe so.
So that was a great card. And then we go to heavy hitters. It's still remaining around 90. With like 40 cards released. I think if we pulled like a different thing and showed like the average body checking.
Yeah, that went up to 99. Yeah, they all went up to 90.
The curve would be like way up here, which is fine. It was a theme set. I thought it was great. And the master sets weren't overpowered.
No.
But once we get to young stars is, in my opinion at least, whenever the gameplay in Hut started to go downhill.
Okay.
So we have 38 cards released. And these are all including master set, but I don't think it affects it too much. Average speed of 96. So all of a sudden you have 38 cards released with an average speed of 96. All of this is excluding synergies. That's not even factored in.
Yep.
And by this time, most people have a +3 to speed.
And these all came out within 2 weeks of each other. If I'm not, almost all sets are within 2 reads because there wasn't ever an event that wasn't going on. I don't believe, right?
Yeah. So I think up until I haven't played Hut recently, for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But but I think they have like a 4 or 5 week set going on, which is probably just absurd.
That's the playoff one, because it's
I don't even want to imagine what it looks like.
Yeah.
So right around here, you can just see in this graph when things kind of start to get out of hand.
Yep.
And then it's just as you move along, you can kind of see they've already reached the peak there. There's nowhere to go here now. It kind of flatlines all the way through the trade deadline set. The actual average speed of the trade deadline set was lower than Young Stars.
Yep.
So, the game comes out like a month or two in, you're already flatlining on speed. There's nowhere to go from here on out.
Yep.
And
especially when you consider how many cards are actually coming. Like Winter National at 114.
114
96
cards.
96 speed. So
Yep, 96 speed right there.
Yep.
And these are all this just shows cards by release, but just think if this was compounding, like you have like the 30 plus 30 plus, all these, there's like 200 cards here, right?
Yep.
So that's my, main issue with HUD.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think one of the things that was brought up recently was adjusting speed to be based on, a player's height.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to put this together to show that this is actually something that's like already in the game.
Yep.
So what the data or what this graph represents is I took all base gold cards of only the NHL players, and I showed what the average speed rating is by the height that they are. So this is in centimeters. I don't know how to read centimeters, but as you consume or assume, this is like 6'9", 6'8". These points represent just so as you can see here, as height increases, speed decreases.
Yep.
So, and that's across, all NHL players. So
this is all base cards, right? This is base cards.
It's all base gold cards. Okay. There's no, nothing, I guess.
So it leads credence to at the beginning of the year, the game plays very well as it's intended to.
Yeah, it plays as it's intended to, and there's already an inherent cap on speed by height, just the way it is, just the way it's reflected in real life.
That big one, though, that was Tyler Myers, you said, right?
So, yeah, this one here, Tyler Myers is the only player that's 6'8", and he has 88 speed.
Okay, so he's the outlier.
This 6'7", I'm assuming is like Alexiak.
Yeah.
And we know who 6'9" is. Yeah. So, he's the guy that ruins every game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, and I think it was interesting. 6'5" kind of stands out. I'm assuming that's like Blake Wheeler and like Patrick Laine and stuff. These like extremely good forwards that are like 6'5", because apparently there's 10 of them.
Yep.
So that's, the basic thing about speed and how it was in NHL 20, my issues with it, and just kind of like how it evolves as height increases.
Yep.
So
at least it showed that's good that that is like that. Like that is actually a good thing at that launch. It seems to be in check. In terms of height and speed, which is good, which is what we want.
It's something that's in the game. Yeah.
Yep.
So let's talk about a potential attribute cap on in-form releases such as Prime Time and Team of the Week.
Okay.
And I will let you explain that. I'm gonna pull up some data here real quick.
Okay.
Let me find it. So while I talk about that, let's see. So here are all the base gold NHL cards.
Yep.
So do you want to talk about for a second what an attribute cap is on each thing?
Yeah. So what it essentially would be is for every attribute, there is a card at launch. We're talking base cards. This is how you fix informs because they have a starting point and can only go up so high. So we'll use Connor McDavid as one. He is the fastest skater in the NHL, and we'll make it so that only he could hit 99. So you start it at a whatever this is an example. It'll show a little bit different here on what Keso's got. But so let's say we start with a speed of 91 for Connor McDavid for speed, acceleration, and agility. He is the only one because he can only go up by 8 to hit 99. It's not fair that every other card he would get to 99 first for speed, acceleration, agility. But once he's there, every other card can catch up which is what's happening in hockey. Ultimately, that's why it's unfair. That's why you don't see progression be the way that we want it to. Everyone just hits 99. So the way that you get around that is if McDavid can hit 99 after seven points, that means that every other card can only go up +7 from their base release. So if you have Chara, which I believe is speed, I don't know what his speed is, like maybe under
Chara
80.
has an 82 speed.
Exactly. So he could only go to 89 in this model because McDavid is the only one that can get to 99. There could be other guys that are tied with him, but that is how it would work, where if you could get... So that way that there's always a gap because the players that should be valued need to be valued higher because this year, for example, when you look at GWC, Connor McDavid wasn't really valued at all. Because everyone else had 99 everything and there was taller people. So we have to find a way to adjust that and make the attributes that they have and the good players that get those attributes mean more. So Ovechkin is another example you're going to see here where he's got the highest shot at the launch of the game. And this set is based on what EA released at the beginning of this year, right? So these are
all base gold cards.
So this year, so it's base gold cards. Yeah, so show me what you got here.
Yeah, so, I mean, using Patrick Kane as an example, I mean, we could, 93 deking.
Yep.
So he can only ever go up by 6 points no matter what. So with the way NHL 20 worked was he probably had 6 prime times or team of the weeks.
Yep.
He hit that 99 deking. Mm-hmm. Somebody like Claude Giroux, maybe he had 12 prime times. Mm-hmm. He's going to catch up to deking it. Patrick Kane and him are going to be the same at the end of the year. I don't think that's an accurate reflection.
No.
I think that also just looking at this real quickly, why does Kucherov have better passing than McDavid and Crosby? I don't get that, but that's a different thing.
Yeah.
So, in my opinion, right, you should have the best players at whatever they do should be the best by the end of the year.
Yep.
So, Sidney Crosby and McDavid should probably have 99 passing. Mm-hmm. Connor McDavid should have 99 speed. Nobody else should have those attributes.
Yep.
Players should stand out and represent how they actually are in real life.
Mm-hmm.
So, what I did here is, in the next example, I took whatever the best version of an NHL player's inform card is. Mm-hmm. So, for example, Team of the Week in Primetime. I took the best version of their card and only took that version. I removed all the duplicates, so Connor McDavid is represented by a 99 primetime version of himself.
Yep.
I don't have his 90 through 98 overall.
Mm-hmm.
So then I took his best inform card and I compared it to if there was an attribute cap in NHL 20, what it would look like at the end of the year.
Okay.
So somebody like Nikolai Ehlers, maybe he only received 5 prime times.
Yep.
So whenever I did an attribute cap, he only got +5. I felt like that fairly represented it. It didn't show what his attributes would be if they were at the cap, what it would look like actually in NHL 20 if there was an attribute cap. So we can go through some examples here. Just as a quick thing, just to compare what the players would look like, and then we'll show some data on what effect it would have at the end of the year.
Okay.
So looking at Alexander Ovechkin, so in NHL 20 there's no cap obviously. So by the end of the year, he has 99, pretty much everything here. He has 95 deking, 99 hand-eye, 95 pass. He's he's a perfect player, right?
And so including his speed or his size too, so yeah.
Exactly. So he's 6'3". So no matter what, he's going to be better than McDavid.
Yep.
If there was an attribute cap, as you can see here, it more accurately represents what kind of player he is in real life.
Yep.
So his excel, agility, speed, they're 90 and 91. He has 99 balance. So the reason he has 99 balance is because his base gold version, he's at the top of balance.
Yep. So
I think he only had to go up a +4 or something.
Yep.
So here, 99 slap shot power. That means he's the best at that, right?
Yep.
His accuracy can only ever go up to 97. His deking's at an 89. His passing's at a 90. His checking's pretty high in strength. But in general,
it's a lot better represented. Yeah, it's shooting.
It's an Alexander Ovechkin card, right?
Yep.
He has nearly 99 shooting, but he's going to be the only guy that is just this good at shooting.
Yep.
Yep. Let's I'm trying to think of another player here, like Tavares maybe. I wonder how he... So... by the end of the year, Tavares actually, 87 acceleration, and I'm not comparing it to his non-cap version. I forget what he had. But it's like a better representation of the player. His shooting's not as good as Ovechkin, obviously. It's still a little too close to Ovechkin's, in my opinion. I think there should be a wider range between players. But something like he's definitely a better passer, right? His passing's a 94. Certain attributes are better than, compared to Ovechkin. But, his defensive awareness is higher.
Let's do a defense one. Pull up Dougie Hamilton for me.
Let's look at Dougie Hamilton.
He's one of the best right-handed defensemen.
This will also be dependent on how many informs they receive during the year.
Oh, at the
time. But this is a good one. This is a good one, so I'm glad you said him.
Yeah.
So his speed is a lot different, right?
Yep. And endurance too. Like here, that's
his endurance is like too lower.
Yep.
His shot's the exact same.
Yep.
So what I would think is, and this is because the reason his shot is the same is because at the beginning of the year, EA Sports for HUT, all the base cards have their versus attributes for athletics. So acceleration, agility, speed, I think balance maybe, but the other attributes are all decreased.
Yep.
So because he didn't get a lot of informs during the year,
yep.
He didn't get enough to overcompensate for if there's an attribute cap.
Okay.
So that's the reason his shooting is the same.
Okay.
But looking here, we can see a minor difference in deking, a minor difference in hand-eye.
It's his speed that's quite considerably different.
Yeah, exactly. And he's 6'6". This guy shouldn't have 97
Pull up Carlson now, like Eric Carlson.
Okay.
Because that would be someone, he's not nearly as effective as Dougie Hamilton on right defense, but he is a more effective skater.
So this is his no cap version.
Yep.
This is if there's a cap, right?
So now, so he's at 94, okay.
He's at 95 speed now.
But his shot is a lot better than his accuracy is far better than Dougie Hamilton's as well.
All of his shooting is better. It's a little worse than what he was represented in NHL 20 without a cap. His deking's a little worse.
Yep.
But look, so just for example though, like his deking, hand-eye, passing, and puck control were 98 or 99, right?
Yep.
Without a cap.
Yeah.
He's not the best. He's a great passer.
Yeah.
He's not the best passer in the league.
No.
He's great at controlling the puck.
Yep.
He's not as good as Patrick Kane or something, right?
No.
So, it's still really good, but he's accurately represented, I feel like.
What about Brent Burns? I feel like that would be one of the biggest because Brent Burns is accurately depicted at the beginning of the year because he's such a bad skater, but then by the end of the year when you get to his 99, it's unfair. And it becomes
look at
that. That's
look at that difference.
Yeah.
And that's one that sticks out a lot. So I'm glad you brought him up.
Yeah.
So he's already 6'5". He doesn't need to be. He doesn't have to have 99 speed, right?
No.
So already these are around 10 lower. 8 to 10 lower.
Yep.
His speed, his acceleration compared to NHL 20.
Mm-hmm.
His shot's a slightly worse.
That's still a really powerful shot. So it's not like you're nerfing him to the point where he's unusable. It's that for among defensemen in this model, the shots are going to be far lower because they start out so much lower. So that's a really impressive shot from a defenseman because Dougie Hamilton had 80 accuracy and 92 power.
Exactly, and Brent Burns has a great shot, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I think one thing that stands out is deking and hand-eye, which I don't know what things hand-eye plays into besides
it's just tipping pucks in my opinion. Yeah,
is it?
Yeah.
Okay, there's those random EA stats that just in the third period this guy can receive a pass better.
Yeah.
But deking is something, right?
Yep.
So what Brent Burns doesn't need 91 deking, the 94 with the synergy, he just doesn't.
No.
So this is something. His offensive awareness is also capped out.
Yep.
His defensive awareness is capped out. His stick checking is capped out, right?
Yep.
I mean, even it's a little. And also, I want to say one benefit that this brings onto the game is it puts more pressure on EA, specifically at the beginning of the year, to accurately represent the ratings a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing I want to bring up just as an example is who's the best defenseman? The
best defenseman in the league?
Dowdy.
Hedman or Dowdy?
Let's say Dowdy. Okay, let's say Dowdy, and let's go to somebody like Kucherov. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm just using this as an example, and then let's look at with a cap. Okay.
Okay.
There's one thing I want to say, and I already know. I don't know this beforehand, But look at this with a cap. They both have 97 defensive awareness.
Yeah.
So what is that? That's because with the way the overall is, just to get Kucherov to like be like an 87 overall or something, they have to boost his defensive awareness. This guy, he doesn't have as good defensive awareness in real life as Drew Doughty. Come on.
Okay, yeah.
So at the beginning of the year, it puts more pressure on them to accurately represent the ratings. So by the time they reach that end game phase, the best players at what they do will still be the best players at what they do.
Yeah. No, I agree. Now, so like I think the reason, I'll explain why it is the way it is right now, I believe, because the way it is right now with defensemen specifically, if you notice at the launch of the game, defensemen have far better defensive stats at the launch of the game for the base card, but they have to bring down something or their overalls would get out of control at the beginning of the game. So it's usually shot accuracy.
Yeah,
that usually takes a hit. So like that's an example of one stat where like it's hammered down because of how the overall, you have to lower their overall. Their overall would be so much higher. So maybe defensive awareness stats I know are pretty considerable when you in terms of like, I know in offline mode, I don't know if this works for HUD as well, but when you increase it in like franchise mode and whatnot, it considerably boosts their overall after just a few points, whereas like if you just raise slap shot power, it wouldn't really bring up their overalls. But the awareness stats are pretty considerable from now it might be different for HUT, but this is all me just talking, maybe guessing. But so let's talk about now. That's what happens with a cap, and that's for live series. So let's talk about
while we're still on that though. I just want to show you a quick comparison.
Yeah.
So this is the data we just looked at. Okay. Yeah. So this is if there's a cap on attributes versus what NHL 20 was. And NHL 20 is represented by the purple. An attribute cap is like the light blue.
Yeah.
So by the time that, end game as
this is for acceleration.
April 11th, this is for acceleration. This is excluding sets. This is only the top version of each card.
Yep.
There were 66 NHL players with 99 acceleration. Look at this curve here. It's heavily in favor of everybody. It's like Oprah. Everybody gets a 99.
Yep.
Right?
Right at the end of the game.
Right. And like, maybe if we did this as of December, I still feel like it would be skewed towards this like 94 to 99 range.
Yep.
If there's a cap, most of the players fall in this like 86 to like, 92, as you can see. And only the actual fast players in the game are the fast players at the end of the game.
Yep.
And this acceleration graph looks a lot different than the other three attributes I chose because they bring forward already a higher athletic attribute in the base version of HUT. Okay. So something like puck control, while it's still skewed a little bit more compared to if there's an attribute cap, there's 10 players that have a 99 puck control compared to 1 with an attribute cap, of course. But it's not as bad as the athletic attributes.
No.
And
that's what most impacts the game.
And that's what mostly impacts the game.
That's all speed. When you say athletics, it's skating.
Yeah, and there's a very clear correlation between most players that have a 97 acceleration or 87 acceleration have the exact same attribute and speed.
Yep.
It's, which I'm not the smartest hockey person. I'd assume people are pretty similar, but there's probably some outliers in real life where somebody's really fast at excelling and maybe not the fastest top end skater. So that maybe that's something that could be improved upon in the future, but that's probably it's too much work for something that doesn't have an effect on the game that much. Yeah. All right. So what was this one? Oh, this was just like, percent of players compared to cap versus no cap. But all right, back to this. So do we want to move on to a size attribute? Yeah,
let's talk about what the size was. So this would be essentially what would happen is you would actually put in a size rating onto each card. And so the bigger they are, he'll show you here, the higher the rating for that stat, which then means that you have to lower some other stats so that their overall doesn't fly up. So someone who's gigantic, like Chara, would have a 99 in size. So his other stats have to be lowered or he's going to be a 99 or his overall is going to fly up. And same with someone like Johnny Gaudreau, who's much smaller. He's going to have a much smaller rating, so his stats have to be boosted. And we're talking about skating stats mostly for this, right?
I think skating stats accurately represents it. I think I think the reason why is like we talked about it earlier. When that 93 Chara card came out, he was, he had to be a 93 overall because that's what the set was. It was 93 overall, 94 overall.
Yep.
So because there's not a size rating, how do you get Chara to 99 or 93? You boost his speed and acceleration. You boost his awareness.
Whatever's low.
Well, he already has high awareness. You can't boost him there.
Yeah.
So you have to put his speed into, what was it, like 96, 97?
I think it was 95. I think his speed was 95. Yep.
Yeah,
it's up
the guy
there,
has the reach of a giraffe. He doesn't need that speed, right?
Yeah.
So what I did was I put together just a rough example of what a size rating would be. So I used the 60 to 99 scale. So based on height, we have it in feet here, we have it in centimeters here. At different heights, they have a different rating. So starting off, if you're 5'5", your height rating's like a 60. Who is that? Like Nathan Gervey? So he'd be the worst, right?
Yeah.
Most NHL players probably fall into this like 75 to 87 range.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put the cap at 99 for 6'6", just so forwards and defensemen are on the same scale. And I feel like at that point, there's not too much of a difference because there's so few players that are in that range.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't make sense to me to have, if this was still by 3, it wouldn't make sense to me to have Hedman at like a 90 and Line A at like an 87, just because those guys are still in the upper echelon of height. So we have a height rating, and then we have a weight rating. So this is something that I didn't factor into the rating as much as height, but I still felt it was important because certain players believe that weight plays a role in like balance and stuff, and maybe it does.
I think it does.
So as you can see, the heavier you are, the higher your weight rating is.
Yep.
So the scale moves a little slow. Like every few pounds, you get like a +1. So what I did here was I redid an overall calculation, and this is just based on NHL 20. This it's a rough draft of something. It's not supposed to be 100% accurate, but I did a reallocation of the overalls by position just to get, if you factored in a size rating, what would their overall be? And I just wanted to do this as an example. So we have a size rating here. So size rating is pretty much, for forwards, it's a 2-to-1 ratio of height to weight. So somebody like Matt Sundin with an adjusted overall rating, all of a sudden, and we're just sorting this by largest to smallest, all of a sudden he's the highest overall in the league.
He would be technically what you consider as the best card.
And I mean, I don't. So here's the issue with my overall. I don't think he was the best card. I think he was a top 10 card for sure.
And this is as of April something.
This is as of April 11th. Too.
Yeah. Okay.
So he was definitely a top 10
for
card.
For sure.
This Austin Matthews was also an amazing card. Like all these cards that are here at the top were the cards that were appearing on, people that were placing in the top 20 and
GWC,
Hut Champs, the GWC. So I also included a column here to show some of the main the biggest differences that happens whenever you factor in a height rating. So sorting smallest to largest. So here's a Henry Richard card. He was like 5'7".
Yep.
He weighed 160. He was a 95 overall in the game. But somebody would shoot you if you used him.
The 87 overall is adjusted. Yeah,
I think that's pretty fair. I wouldn't even go. I wouldn't even.
I would never use him. No.
Exactly. Stan Mikita, 97
Same
overall.
thing.
If I had a free untradeable card, I wouldn't use him in GWC. He was awful.
Yep.
Howie Moren's the same thing.
Mm-hmm. And what you're saying is with your size rating, it's basically accurately depicting what has happened this year in hockey in Ultimate Team without some sort of like cap or fix to that rating system. You're basically putting the rating system on top of what's in the game currently, and what you got out of it is essentially, here are the top 10, 20 cards that everyone pretty much deems as the top 20 cards to use, and the vice versa. So
exactly, I kind of worked backwards from that to I felt like what were the actual best cards, and I felt like I had a good understanding of that, or like what people in GWC use. So maybe it's not an accurate overall rating, but it's what people used in the game.
Yeah.
So looking at somebody looking at defense as well, by overall, looking at their adjusted overall here, these were all the players that people in GWC were using. I think I had this Parayko card, So looking at the biggest, looking at who improved the most, you had some of these random cards, right? So like I
Taylor
have all the
Doherty.
cards in here. There's like a 73 Doherty that goes up to 81. Looking at smallest to largest. This Quinn Hughes card, this 95 overall Quinn Hughes card,
Yeah.
nobody used him.
No.
Adjusted overall back
Mhm.
to 88. So one thing I think would be interesting to look at is somebody like Chara and looking at that like 93 Chara. So adjusted overall, apparently he only goes up, by 1 according to my thing. So clearly mine's not correct.
Well, but he only has so small to go. Like he's already like, you know what I mean? Like he's already so high.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and some of these stats were pretty bad on him, like his deking, hand-eye, and passing.
Yeah.
But looking at the size rating, taking back, let's say he's like an 85 speed, like an 82 acceleration or something.
Yeah.
He does drop an overall, and this isn't like an accurate thing, but I think if a size rating is put into the game, you don't have to have him at 95 speed or whatever. You can drop his speed in Excel to like accurately reflect the card, and he'd still be a 92 overall.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just the main point we have to get to, and that's what EA needs to incorporate in HUT, 21.
So you would say something like where based on their height, like if you have 99 speed or 99 as a size rating, right? So that your acceleration and maybe your agility are capped even more than what the cap that you have based on what we talked about earlier. So
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
But I just want to say that's something that we said before. It's already inherently in the game.
Yeah, so you're talking about, okay, so yeah, for live series cards, for the informs, it's already in the game.
So maybe that's something where if they do set releases, they kind of reference like this data point where, they're taller, let's not make them as fast. Let's not put out a 99 speed Chara.
Yeah.
He can only get to 86.
For event cards, because those were all event cards, essentially. They weren't, I'm trying to think of a live series card other than Dougie Hamilton and Brent Burns stands out the most because he's terrible at skating and he is reflected at launch, but then by the time he gets to the 99, like that's when it boosts up. But in this model, I mean, McDavid being the only one that could get up +7 in skating, right? Or getting to max at 9 instead of skating.
So in this model, his base skating was already like
bad. I think it's like
7.
Yeah, You're talking about
McDavid,
McDavid, sorry, talking about McDavid, yeah.
Yeah, so anybody can only go up by 2 points. But
Yeah.
still, I felt like...
I think you'd have to lower it at the launch of the game for this model to work.
So, and that's another benefit, right?
Yeah.
So they put these as high ratings, but if they actually lowered this at the beginning of the year, it leaves more cards to be upgraded throughout the year. So McDavid can still get, all of his upgrades.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So
and then you can go through any of these stats and see that you like do deking, for example.
Yeah, so deking, we can look at, Patrick Kane.
Patrick
right?
Kane is at 93, and that's I mean, 93 is a little high, I think. I think maybe 91 or 92 just at the launch of the game. So then he can only go up +8. That means that McDavid can only go to 98. Kucherov can only go to 80 or 97, and then so on and so forth. But it's the cards that those guys are going to get their 99s no matter what in deking. It's close to it, but it's the cards that are way down below, like Steven Stamkos, who eventually will hit 99 because he'll get all his informs. But in this model, he can only get to 94.
Yep.
I think that fixes everything. I think, in my opinion, I think that's a really, and it's easy to do in terms of something that's actually able for EA to actually do to implement. I think, for sure.
I think it's something easily implementable. And I think that this also gives more of a difference to, or more of an incentive to buy the set releases too. Mm-hmm. So I think these should only be tied to the inform cards.
Yep.
And I think the set releases should be more themed releases that are tied to what they actually are. So heavy hitters like we said earlier, it was a good one.
Yep.
So maybe somebody like Brad Marchand could only get to 86 checking based on something, just as an example.
Yeah.
With the heavy hitters, maybe you decrease a couple of his stats, but you give him like that 98 body checking or something.
Or even if you just give him the 98 body checking, the one stat of that series that goes up 10, it breaks his cap or whatever it is. that card, that Brad Marchand card, now becomes more important than any of the other Brad Marchand cards until he hits his inform in like, a few months down the line or a couple months down the line. I think
but it gives you an incentive to use, because there's so many cards that are released throughout the year that even when they come out, they're just useless.
Yeah,
there's no point
a lot of the
them.
prime time, and
a
lot of them, and we're trying to give a value to each single one.
Yeah, because like right now, you probably like I said, I'm not playing high right now, but you'd probably quick sell a 90 overall card or put him into a silver trade-in set. Maybe there's a card that you still want to use throughout the year because Kuznetsov might not hit 99 speed, but maybe there's like a speed skater type, whatever set comes out, and he's like a 98 speed or something. He's a valuable card throughout the year. And it goes for any type of set. Like I said, that leader set was great because these cards were valuable a little bit longer than most sets. So it just adds more. One of the reasons why I did this was because it's like right now it's May, it's almost June. I would like to play NHL. I still have fun playing the game, but HUT is just it's not fun to play right now. Every card plays the exact same. Like I would like some team building aspects of it. I would like to have fun in building a team, but Panarin and Kuznetsov are the same card. Goudreau and McDavid have the same stats. Like it doesn't accurately reflect real life.
I think that, and I agree, and I think that another big thing is that you have to give a card like Goudreau. I always say Goudreau just because he's the one that comes to my mind, but Goudreau is not a usable card at all in NHL 20, no matter what his rating is.
He's just not.
Because of his size and figuring out a way.
By putting these caps on here, somebody like Goudreau all of a sudden becomes a usable card in HUT.
Yeah, because his acceleration agility can hit 99.
Exactly. So he can, if it's not 99, it's like 97 or 98.
Yeah.
So, and also it makes people build their teams differently too.
Yeah.
So
you might have one guy.
Example, maybe on defense you have a pairing of Brent Burns and Quinn Hughes. Yep. You have a guy that's big, and then you have a guy that
can get back
fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every single team was the same this year.
Mm-hmm.
So this fixes so many things. And if we still have time, I'd like to tie this into the salary cap.
For sure. That's it.
Yeah, all right. Let's see that in.
So one of the things... Yeah, go ahead and explain it.
Okay, so one of the things, I've been beating a dead horse for years. This is something that's been in Madden for however long, like 5 years. I would like to see some sort of restricted mode in HUT or a salary cap mode in HUT. It'd be the same thing. And the first thing people think of is, they had this in NHL 11 or NHL 12 where... there is a salary cap. This would be a little bit different. So NHL 11 and 12, it was their real life salaries, and people that were on rookie contracts that were just like amazing players, they would be on every team. So I think back then Taylor Hall had like an 800K hit or something. Maybe he wasn't drafted by them, but it was people like that. Maybe it was Stamkos, where you would use players that were younger, and most of the teams ended up being the same. Yep. So in my example, a salary cap would just be like a rating. Mm-hmm. And it would be mostly tied to their overall. Mm-hmm. So you would have, looking at this as an example, so each line for this forward unit has a different cap. So let's just say this is an overall rating. So here's their salary, and this was I think somebody like Duclair, his salary is a little bit higher than his rating because I factored in speed in this. So let's say this salary is his rating. Okay. So you have a cap hit of 270 for your first line. That means you can split it out evenly. You can have 390 overall players on the first line, or you can do what I did. You have a 99 McDavid, and then you have two faster guys that are rated a little bit less. And then the cap hit decreases each line. So one of the counterpoints people might say is that, well, you have all these cards that you got, throughout the year. I want to use all these, I want to use all my good cards. This would only be in whatever the competitive mode is.
So
it would only be in that HUT Champs, or maybe it's a separate mode too that is used at the end of the year for GWC, because you have you have this $100,000+ tournament that's not even played in the same type of mode as HUT. It's a completely different game. So as you go down, this is I feel like an accurate representation of what an NHL lineup, could be. I chose to use a better center on my third line, but the wingers, they're half dead. They're not even in the league anymore. Maybe you increase this cap just to have better players on it. Maybe you want to use 75 to 80 overalls on your third line.
But it would also allow you to make those prime times throughout the year more valuable, because
That's
in
what and
champs.
that's the best part about it.
Yeah. Because whether maybe you want to have McDavid on the first line and then do Claire, let's say he's 80 overall launch, but you have an 84 that came out that you would never use. But in this mode, because he's an 84, he fits into your lineup and he's actually valuable because there's a salary cap.
Exactly. So all players are usable throughout the year.
Yeah.
Any year in Hut, as the year goes on, the actual cards that are used shrink immensely, right? So by this time, I'd assume most teams are 95 to 99 overall.
Pretty
they
close,
all have the same attributes, and it provides a more of an emphasis on strategy and team building too, which is the biggest thing that I've been saying that's been missing from Hut. You look at any game that's based on like team building, and like I always think of, I've never played the game before, but Hearthstone or whatever it's called, that's a game where I'm assuming people spend a lot of time deck building and stuff, right? And thinking about things. You look at Madden with their salary cap mode where people spend hours and days, tinkering with their lineup and like figuring out different things and how to fit players. This it adds so much strategy to the game. And then another thing I think it adds is that all of this that I'm saying in this video, it adds a lot on the content creation side for people that promote the game. So, just thinking off the top of my head, maybe I watch Josh Fearless or Henrique's channel or something, and I want to see how he builds a team. It's something like that that gives those people an incentive to promote the content a little bit more, even though, those guys are going to stream no matter what. It ties real life to, this game. It provides just a better experience of Hut throughout the year. And these are things that I think that if all of these are implemented, it takes, Hut from like 4 or 5 out of 10 to like a 9 or 10 out of 10.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I said, man, like I think that at launch you see it the most, because at launch those icon cards that have, higher attributes and whatnot, when you can actually get an icon card at launch, they feel different. Like they feel powerful, as they should, right, compared to like some of the other cards, that base cards that comes out at launch. But you actually feel a difference with what we have now with a no cap system. Every card feels the same. I have one of the best Hut teams every single year, just because it's kind of like my job. And people always ask me, do you like this card? Do you think that do you feel? I'm like, dude, they feel exactly the same to me. Every single one.
Exactly.
They feel exactly the same to me.
Like the NHL Hut Reddit.
Yeah.
Like people will post these things and they're like, oh, can I get a card review of like 98? Like, dude, it's the same exact card as anybody that's his height. Like, they all play the same.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And I don't want to say, like, the data and work you put in here is fantastic, dude. Like, it's obviously a lot. And, like I said, you're one of the more passionate people in the community. Maybe you don't have, not enough people hear it if they don't follow you on Twitter, right? So it is.
Yeah, follow me on Twitter. I have the funniest NHL Twitter.
Oh, absolutely. You guys have got to follow.
In the league.
Absolutely. It was at Keso Paguni.
At Keso _Paguni.
Yeah, so at KESO _PAGHUNI, and I'll post it in the comment section down below. Absolutely.
Yeah. Hey, listen, if Nick or Ben or somebody you watch it, obviously I should have been a game changer about 10 years ago, and that's fine. I forgive you guys, but I think there's a balance, and I think my knowledge of like the competitive gameplay is second to none. And I would really like to just see, more of an emphasis on strategy in this game in Hut, and just more longevity in playing this game. I would still love to play it, but it's just, it's not fun by the time,
No, absolutely. And I think
over.
The GWC puts an even harder stress on it, because as you're building your team throughout the year, it really doesn't matter, because by the time GWC comes out, the 99s are all out of control. And the cards you battled for 3 months prior, or a month prior even, don't really hold their value. So I think that,
and there's one more thing too I want to say, just so it's not like me hating. I think NHL 20 for gameplay wise, it's amazing whenever you use versus teams or lower overall Hut teams. This is why people complain about the game, and it sucks because the game was actually done very well. But it's just that the majority of the player base is in Hut, and they just don't see it.
Exactly.
So that's why we need to fix it.
No, I agree, man. So I want to thank you for taking the time to go over all the stuff that you've gone over, man. I'm excited to see what the response is from the community. And guys, if anyone that's watching this, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm gonna send this to EA to see what they think about a cap system and how it would work, and having a height rating and whatnot, and a salary cap for competitiveness and whatnot. But for anyone that was watching, please give me your feedback down below, and make sure you give Keso a follow on Twitter. Hopefully, we'll see him in the Game Changer program soon. But regardless, thank you again, man, for doing all this, and I hope maybe this sparks at least a conversation. I know it's got to spark a conversation.
I'd hope so. Worst case, I wasted like 4 or 5 hours on a weekend. I'm locked in anyway. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you for doing this with me, and we'll see you around.